Yeah. Stop your grinning and drop your linen, son. The Beaverines have come to party this morning. Y'all said y'all wanted a live stream. A bunch of you left that comment, so here we are. We are going to talk about the circus this morning that is DC. Right now, it's the House. It is also the Senate. It is also the president, whoever that happens to be, because Joe Biden don't even know. That's right, partay. Thank you, Wilson. I assumed that I'm 5 by 5 and not just speaking into the shadows here. I'll explain this a little bit later, the finger. I'll explain that a little bit later. We had an unfortunate incident yesterday, but many unfortunate incidents taking place, right? So, for those that have not heard, well, first of all, let's see who's in the house. Carrie's here, Michael G's here, Firefox, how are you doing? Paradise Acres. Sean Penrod, good morning. Captain Coral, Wisconsin Farm Boy Bernard, what's going on? VR Lab Girl, Mods, Bama Jen, and the group, thank you very much. Digna, good morning. Homestead, Jeff, Patriot Mike, Jim Hegwood, thank you. Jim Smith's World, Briar Patch, Mike, Moose J, what's going on? Mike Malone, what's up? Steph L. All right. So yesterday, Biden is giving a press conference and he's talking about the border. He's finally going to the border, y'all. Can you believe it? He's finally going down to see what's going on. He says this according to the White House, so take that with a grain of salt. But during his statement, he says nobody knows the border situation better than President Harris. He literally said that. And I said, okay, here we go. So we have a president who continues to call Kamala Harris the president of the United States. A president that, soils his pants, if you will, in front of the elites, the dignitaries from other countries, who shakes hands with nobody in thin air and walks off the wrong side of the stage. We have a Senate that just passed the omnibus bill and 95% of them don't even know what's in it. They don't know what's being funded. Trillions of dollars gone now. And now on top of this, we have a House of Representatives, and it looks like a clown show. And so we're gonna be talking about that quite a bit this morning. I mean, it just looks horrible. Uh, it looks so unorganized. And we're gonna take, both sides of this. McCarthy, I think, has lost 11 rounds. We're at that point in the Rocky movies now where he's just like, "Cut me, son. Cut me, Mick." I think Mick was his name, right? Mickey. Jim, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much for the super sticker. So, as much as it seems like a clown show, the record, I had to pull it up here, is actually 133 votes, and that belongs to Nathaniel, Banks from the early 1800s. So, can you imagine McCarthy going up going back up 133 times? But that was during, I believe that was during, the stage of our country where they were abolishing slavery and stuff like that. So, that dude was meeting heavy resistance. Trump got nominated yesterday. A campaign promise was kept. What's his name? Uh, the guy with the huge forehead. I can't remember his name. Y'all know what I'm talking about. He said, "If you reelect me, I'm gonna nominate Trump for Speaker of the House." Does Trump stand a chance of winning? Of course not. It's more symbolic than anything. And, I gotta tell y'all this real quick. Caveman, he showed up yesterday, and I packed him down with a bunch of prepping stuff, a little bit of podcasting equipment that I don't use anymore as well. He picked up his moonshine from Joni, and, he was under the impression it was store moonshine, and he was like, "My God, this is the real deal." I said, "Yeah, son." And 5 minutes after he left, I realized I forgot to give him the fishing poles, so those fishing poles do not want to go. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, y'all. Those fishing poles, it's like they wanna stay in the ownership of somebody that can fish. Where you at, Caveman James? Um, yeah, I mean, we can get into that as well. That is going on there's just so much going on, right? But they just put out I wanna say it was a destroyer. It's not an aircraft carrier, but they just, put a ship out, and it's headed to, I believe, the Pacific, and it has the hypersonic missiles on it, so that's just something else to think I mean, it's total chaos, guys. And so I thought, it's been a while since we did a top 10 list here. At first, I was gonna nominate myself and pretty much anybody with 2 legs and a heartbeat to be the Speaker of the House, and I said, "No, we're not qualified, but I know 10 people that are." And I went ahead and made a top 10 list of people good morning, Dome Seeker, that should be nominated for Speaker of the House. Because, I mean, honestly, it can't get any more embarrassing, right? So first is John Oates. John Oates from Hall& and Oates, huh? The guy that stood I think he was in the background and he just said time, like, that's the only thing he said in all the songs. He's the House Speaker, he could recognize somebody and then just say, "Time," when their time is up. Kid Rock, just because 'cause I'd like to see it. I like to see Kid Rock up in there smoking a cigar, telling them, "You can't cancel me and your time's up, whatever, move on." Eric at my local Winn-Dixie, bag boy, nice dude. Caveman James's barber. I don't know where he gets his hair done, but he's committing a war crime on somebody at this point. Number 5, Paul Pelosi's Uber driver. Imagine what that individual has seen. And Ted Nugent, honorable mention on that when I see that. Paul Pelosi's Uber driver, he probably uses the same one. Imagine the therapy that comes along with that. Anybody that wears camo is number 6. If you're sitting in camo right now, you're nominated for Speaker of the House. I'd vote for you. Number 7, Alex Jones. I wanna see that. If not Kid Rock, I wanna see Alex Jones as Speaker of the House. Number 8, Joe Biden's teleprompter operator. I can't imagine. Number 9, Festus from Gunsmoke. Festus from Gunsmoke. And number 10, the GPS lady. She's known around these parts as Kate. A big shout out to my friend Paul Doyle. We used to work together and we worked out of a vehicle and we used GPS for everything. And he got me to the point where I was calling her Kate because she sounds like Kate Beckinsale. Whoever that lady is, she is nominated. But let me get into the chat now. Again, the quote yesterday, President Harris knows better than anyone about the ongoing issues at the border. Please, let's get on that one for a few minutes because that is not getting old anytime soon. That is that's not gaslighting, man. That's nuking somebody at that point. That is nuking their ability to think because she hasn't been near the border in at least a year, and I don't think she's ever when she went, she didn't actually go to the border. So I'm not sure how she would number 1, how she would know better than the people that live there, alright? And number 2, she's not the president. Joe Biden is lucky people call him the president. He needs to take that one and run with it, son. But he he can't even it fell into his lap as a gift, and he can't even take it. He's trying to hand it to everybody else, President Harris, President whoever. Um, it is the dementia. They need to do something about it at this point. I mean, it has gotten out of control the way this man is up there talking. Watch a border. There you go. That reminds me of Prepper Tribe. He had a song once upon a time. Okay, I'll tell y'all that story real quick, Amelia. So my dog, Bruno, hates Caveman James. I don't know what it is about, but I have to when he gets here, I have to kennel my dog, and the kennel is actually near the front door. Well, anyway, long story short, as James is leaving, I've got Bruno kenneled, and he's literally trying to attack James through the kennel, and, so I'm up against the kennel, and I'm letting James walk by because he's got this huge box. I gave him ammo cans and stuff, and I accidentally stick my finger down there, and so my dog did this to me. It's ridiculous, and I had to tie time, thank y'all. It's ridiculous. He wasn't even trying to get me. He was trying to get Caveman. So, you know, I deserve a medal or something for saving Caveman's life on that. Um, Taco Bell is not the border. Yeah, I can't say much about that because didn't he tweet a picture out eating Taco Bell or something? Yeah, what's a border? It doesn't matter anymore anyway, right? But she seems to be, um, excellent when it comes to knowledge of the border. To hear Biden tell it anyway. Good morning, Marilyn, how are you? It is terrible, and I can't even be mad at him because I knew he was gonna go after James, he always does. He won't do it to anybody else, he'll bark, but then they can go up and, not James. I don't know if it's the hair, I don't know if it's the coat of many colors looking rag that he wears as a coat, or what it is, man, his strut, they just don't get along. Um, so I had to put a little super glue on it and grab a first aid kit, and then because I had to go pick my kids up. I was out the door. Savagely, I see that, I have no idea where that came from. Now, this was discussed last night. Uh, when I got around my wife, I said, "Look, like, either we have to do something, or, I'm gonna start digging a hole out in the backyard, something's gotta give." It hurt for a little while, but it doesn't hurt now. My wife made sure it was cleaned up and everything when she got home. Um, let me see here, double check, uh, it does be lesson to be learned there. It all happens so fast, you know what I mean? And I had somewhere that I had to be. I can't My kids can't be just sitting there with no ride, you know what I mean? Super glue did the trick there, um, at least short term. Katrinka, good morning, how are you doing? Beaverines? So shortages, I wanna mention shortages real quick before we move on. What are y'all seeing? Shortages are hitting our social media. I wrote this down, pet food, baby formula, and eggs. They seem to be the 3, and eggs, they're kinda up there in price. 5 something a dozen right now, I think, but people are still buying them. So, there's, a shortage. I know, Ark Nanny, I apologize, I don't know why. It sound okay now? Children's meds, that's another one, yeah. I got one of those knobs here. Hold on, man. I think fixing tech problems on the fly here. Yeah, maybe that'll work. Now we haven't checked the litter or anything. We have a cat, but it stays outside all the time. It's got a house and stuff, unless it's deep freeze cold. But we do buy the cat food and stuff. And it's hard to find. Dog food right now is even harder to find. Over the counter medicines, bread. We've not seen a shortage on that. Price increase, but there it's on the shelves. Yeah, shortage of patience for sure. Tomato-based products, yeah, they said that one was gonna happen, um, several months ago. Hopefully, it doesn't get too bad, but, I mean, we're stocked up on pretty much everything. I see shortages of frozen hash browns all the time. Most of your frozen stuff, yeah, it gets wiped out pretty quickly. Zombies love that stuff. Throw it in the microwave. Thank you for bringing that up, Jen. YouTube has been unsubscribing people randomly, and I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. I'm not going through and unsubscribing you, I can promise. But, double check and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't done so in a while. Toilet paper, well, that's good. Paper towels, cat food, cat litter, canned meats, and canned vegetables. Huh. Bottled and distilled water, we don't have that here. We don't have the shortage here, I should say. So, much better, thank y'all. Where do y'all stand on what's going on in DC? So we've talked about Joe's incompetence, and you could spend weeks on that. The Senate, I ain't even gonna get into that because they've already passed the bill. Where do y'all stand on what's going on? I think there are 20 holdouts with the House of Representatives. I've got a list of the things that they're asking for, and it's not a complete list, but it's like the main key points or keynotes of what they're asking for. Where do y'all stand? Do you stand with the 20 they claim to be standing up against the swamp, or do you think they're just being childish and petty at this point? Um, the main things that they're asking for, let me just say this real quick. Sean Hannity kinda let me down. Lauren Boebert was on his show, and he was interviewing her, and he was basically lecturing her, saying, "You need to go ahead and stand down because nothing's getting done in DC." And she gave it right back to him, and she said, "Well, the taxpayers are already winning because we now have 2 or 3 days that Ukraine's not getting taxpayer money." And I just found it ironic because on his show, and I watch his show sometimes, I'm not a Hannity hater or nothing, I do watch it sometimes, and he's always talking about the swamp and the establishment and something needs to be done, and she's trying to tell the man on his own show, "We're trying to do that." We're actually trying to do something about the swamp. They're saying Kevin McCarthy is bought and paid for, basically. And if he becomes speaker, a lot of bills do not get introduced. Like he has a ton of power at that point, and that he's bought and paid for. And they're saying it's time to do things differently, even if we got to lock it down for a while. They want to bring a vote to the floor for term limit. Does term limits, would that ever get passed in the House? Of course not, but bringing it to the floor puts a spotlight on it, and it shows you exactly who's voting for term limits and who's voting against term limits. Basically, who the swamp creatures are. They would have to out themselves at that point. Uh, yeah, and I know. Thank you, Thomas. I know that, but people will message and they're like, "Hey, what's up? I'm not subscribed, or I thought I was," and it just I hate it. Term limits, please, yes. And they're saying we need to bring it to a vote. They want a vote um, to come to the floor when it comes to border security. There's a package that was put together by a delegation in Texas. And they're not demanding that this thing gets passed, they're saying, "We want it voted on in the wide open. We want the American people to know who's for border security and who's against border security." McCarthy has said no on both of those so far. They're tired of funding Ukraine. They wanna rein the spending in. They said, "We're tired of seeing, the United States spend money we don't have. We want a balanced budget." McCarthy said no, and, um, that's basically the major 3 points. And then the 4th was that they can bring a motion to remove the speaker at any time. And I think that's kind of a fail-safe for them, if he's not doing what he promised, we're gonna remove him. And so now he's actually trying to work out a deal with them and also some of the Democrats. He's trying to concede some of the stuff to Democrats to bring enough votes to become House Speaker, and that's why you've seen 11 votes. He'll p he'll probably get in as Speaker of the House, but I don't know what he'll have to give up to do it. Um, but it brings about a more important question because a lot of people that wanna see change on social media, they're yelling about these 20, um, Dan Crenshaw called them criminals. A lot of people are calling them insurgents, believe it or not, and they're saying, they're locking down Congress and stuff like this, but the important part is here for me, what would a convention of states look like? If you think this is chaotic, can you imagine a convention of states? Sometimes there has to be chaos before there can be change. And these 20 are saying we can't keep doing things the way we have been doing them for the last 50 years plus. Yeah, they never had a budget. That's how we got a $32 trillion deficit. Exactly. And the point one of the representatives was making, I think it was the guy from Florida that got nominated. He said, we've spent more time debating the House Speaker than we spent on the time that was spent on the omnibus bill, and he was saying any bill that's beyond 5 pages there needs to be days of debate. This is what, democracy or a constitutional republic should look like, not, showing up, voting on a bill in the dark, and then $2 trillion are gone or whatever the case is, and that's the point. I think Boebert was saying this yesterday. She's saying we're in DC doing what Crenshaw promised he was gonna do, you know? He said he was gonna go in and fix the swamp, and she's saying, um, he's part of the swamp now, and they don't really care what he has to say. That's what I'm talking about. Bring back dueling. And look, with Ukraine and Russia, put Putin and Zelensky in there. Give them both a pistol, tell them to walk 20 paces. Save everybody a bunch of time and money, and let's just do it. You know, I would sign on for that in a heartbeat. That's probably he's like, "Oh, Jay." I don't even know what that haircut would be called. Uh, Triple T, Crenshaw called him terrorists. He did, and he's starting to make parallels to January the 6th. He's saying they're traitors, just I'm like, "Come on, man." It's people like you. What it is when you when you think about it, and you think about the fact that AOC has only been there for a few years, and you look at her salary, she didn't have a ton of money when she first started in politics. She didn't have enough to get a townhouse, for those that don't know, until she got her first congressional paycheck. Now she's worth $40 million. Where did the money come from? Nobody's asking questions, and these people are saying we need oversight. We need people asking these questions. People need to know where this money's flowing through. And for anybody that doesn't know, Kevin McCarthy is actually listed on the World Economic Forum's website as the House Speaker. They've pumped a ton of money into that man. Um, I see that, Pilgrim. Tax AOC. Well, she wore the dresses to tax the rich. I'm like, yeah, that's rich within itself. Okay, thank you. What about that secret little committee that Roy busted out on GB who decide that gets voted on? Check out his interview on Glenn Beck. I will. Thank you. And they're saying, that most of the stuff is getting voted on, it's just pageantry. That's what these 20 are saying. They're saying it's already decided in a back room somewhere. Favors are exchanged, money's exchanged from donors and stuff, and then they come out, they go through the motions, and it is what it is. And these 20 are like, "No, we need to start bringing it to the House floor so people can see what is being voted on," and McCarthy's not gonna do that. They're trying to force him to. Yeah, they also thank you for bringing that up. They also, called him a squatter because he's already in the speaker's office and he won't leave after losing 11 votes. Yeah, they call him a squatter. I forgot all about that. "What's going on, Rocco?" "Sarah, how are you doing?" FJB all day long. You're probably at work, am I right? This man's always working. Yeah, GMA Nana. And thank you. I After I did the live stream the other morning, I actually found one more Christmas card. It was from you, so thank you. Okay, he's listed as the majority leader. I'm sorry. If that's the case, I am sorry, about that mix up. But I mean, he's in with them. Come on, man. We can split hairs or we can call a spade here. McCarthy's corrupt. He's a swamp creature. He's no different than Mitt Romney or any of the Liz Cheneys, all the people that have been there forever and 13 days getting rich. That's a good question. How can we better show support for the 20? I mean, they're on social media. They're kind of Twitter, especially. They're putting it out in real time. I don't know. They're not asking for money. Several of them have said they absolutely will not vote for McCarthy. Some of the other ones are on the fence. They're saying if he agrees to bring this to the floor, they're willing to cave. So I really don't know. Um, that's a good question, Bear Paw. Thank you. I want to know why Trump is pushing McCarthy. Uh, so for anybody that's not been following it, after the 20 started kind of standing up to the swamp and resisting, Trump actually called them or tweeted or something and said, "You need to stand down and vote McCarthy." And these folks like Trump. Lauren said he's my favorite president, and she said, "No, McCarthy needs to stand down. You're not gonna turn us against Trump." So, I don't know. To your question, I really don't know. Um, uh, it's hard for me to sit here and say Trump doesn't like to see chaos because I think he does like to see chaos. So, I don't know what his connection with McCarthy is. I don't know, like, what they got on a personal level or anything like that. Y'all think, let's see here, it's the 6th of January. Do you think the 6th of January of next year, we're still gonna have Joe Biden as president? Sergeant Deacon says Trump is no longer relevant in all caps. He had his chance. Trump needs to stay out of it. I think he's hurting his, chances for reelection by getting into this one, I really do. Because, I'll say this, there's certain things that Democrats and Republicans will always fundamentally disagree on, like abortion and gun rights, for example. But I think this is personal opinion. Y'all let me know what you think. I believe that most conservatives taxpayers, most liberal taxpayers would be on board together, hand in hand for term limits. I think it's something most people want to see. And so if that's what people want to see, it needs to happen, you know? A lot of people are saying no on Joe Biden. I mean, he doesn't realize he is now, but, when Swamp endorses someone, the Swamp goes after them. I really think we have 2 presidents functionally somehow, more than 2 maybe. You know, if you include all the different earlobe Bidens and stuff like that, and eyes here, and then eyes over here, and then people puppeteering. I better shut up. Talon, McCarthy can have absolute power or he will be another Pelosi. That's what they're saying. They want to limit the power of the House Speaker because they're saying nothing gets done when you have a swamp creature as the House Speaker. Nothing can get introduced that the people actually want. Again, like a vote on term limits. I don't think they would pass that, but again, voters would be able to see, okay, this person voted against term limits, and then they would go and they would be able to, in theory, vote that person out of office. I would hope so. Captain Silva says, "Could Trump beat Newsom?" That is just a nightmare ticket all the way. I don't know, man. Um, I would like to think so. I can't see where anybody would vote for Gavin Newsom, but there are a lot of Trump haters. Joe the puppet. Yeah, Carrie, you're right. Good morning, Dynamite, and also, Klaus Schwab. Good morning. And if it's the real one, how dare you? I don't care how much of a security detail you got, son. Uh, I think the current administration is watching old West Wing episodes. Oh, how times have changed. Good morning, Robin. How are you? It's gonna be interesting, and I know it's kind of a little too early to start talking about the presidential election, but the tickets themselves and the people that throw their hat into the ring. Mitt Romney, for the not excuse me, not Mitt Romney, Mike Pence has officially thrown his hat into the ring, and I'm like, "Man, what are you thinking?" Nah, who's gonna vote for Mike Pence? Democrats don't like the guy, conservatives don't like the guy, nobody likes the guy. His own family be voting against him. I think politically he's done. I think politically Kevin McCarthy's done, no matter how this turns out. He'll never be president. No, I'm not dogging it. I like the show. I'm just saying, The West Wing. I'm just saying times have probably changed. I would hate to see Joe Biden's West Wing, like a documentary or something. Can you imagine that? Or Trump's for that matter. No, it's not stupid to have ear protection at all. I don't have room on my nightstand for any though. Uh, but I have a small nightstand, so I'd sooner vote for Kanye than Newsom. I'm right there with you. I would vote for Kanye before I would vote for Mike Pence also. I really I mean, I really would. Kanye, he's chaotic. to say the least, but I think he at least has good intentions. Pence, Newsom, they don't have good intentions. Carrie Lake as speaker. Well, I can now that you bring it up, James. Can you imagine what the Oval Office smells like? They oughta make that like, them pine tree things that you hang up in your car? They oughta make, Joe Biden's Oval Office. That should be an official scent. Well, Plays a Lot says, politics are a dog and a pony show. I agree to an extent, but, it's also a way to transfer wealth, and I kinda wanna know where the money's going, you know what I'm saying? Um, Whether it's a sham or not. The poll this morning, the new GOP-controlled House of Representatives, I think they go back into vote at noon today for round 12. Um, what will they do moving forward? 76% of you say continue to embarrass America. Um, I agree, but they're certainly not the only embarrassment that we got. Every federal level right now is an embarrassment, whether it's the feds, whether it's the IRS, whether it's the White House, the Senate, and now it's par for the course. 24% of you say fight for the American people. And maybe that is what they're doing, but it's still kind of embarrassing to watch because the world's watching, you know? They are, McBean. I did a video, oh my goodness, it's been almost 2 years ago. I can't believe I've been on YouTube that long, but, it was on the backup channel, and there was a purge. I forget which year. I would have to go back and watch my own documentary, but there was a purge. The Andy Griffith Show was ending, so I know it was right around that time, and then RFD was starting up, and it was down in that time where they did this purge from small town shows, and they completely switched the way TV shows were handled, and they did that on purpose, and it's just been downhill ever since. I don't know. I haven't seen Kanye in a long time. I think, oh, y'all stalled Dan Crenshaw out now. Some of the people dropping some mean stuff in there. Yeah, I know. West Wing. I thought you said wrestling. Um, I'd rather watch wrestling, decent wrestling anyway. Mothballs. Ugh, it probably does smell like mothballs too. I don't know, man. I like to not for very long, but I like to be a fly on the wall up in there for a little while just to see how things are run. Joni, convention of states is needed. We're in deep do no matter who gets speaker. Yeah, and you get into the argument also, you're not wrong. We need a convention of states or something drastic, but we're starting to get into the point now where it may be too late anyway. Whether it's a convention or whether they're standing up to the swamp. This probably should have been done 40 years ago. What they're trying to do right now. So it may be all for nothing. Um, it's hard to say. I would vote for Warlord for speaker. He'd get it done. He would get it done. He would have to watch his six at all times though, because the WEF be coming after him. Good morning, FSP. Yeah, we have a new strain, McBean. The Kraken or Kraken, as some people call it, must be a titan of a pandemic. And also now getting up near the top of mainstream media, all of the fear pics coming out of China. So the C-19, it's widespread in China now, and again, they're going back to the photos of they always pick little kids wearing these masks, terrified, and honestly, if it's going on, like, I don't trust the reporting coming out of China, first and foremost. I don't think it's gonna be very accurate, but second of all, I don't trust our mainstream media either. Second of all, they had a zero COVID, policy for a year and a half. People weren't exposed to each other, people were masked down, they were treated like cattle, and they haven't exchanged germs back and forth. So, if it is going on over there, I don't know that it would happen here. I think our biggest concern here and, Britain especially, I think I read that Britain, they're seeing 1,000 extra deaths a day that cannot be explained for whatever reason, just sudden death, boom, 1,000 a day, and they're not able or roughly 1,000, and they're not able to, that's hitting Patreon later, by the way. That's scheduled if you're on Patreon, you're gonna see the video with that intel, but it's unexplainable. They can't explain why it's happening. They're pointing all over the place. And a few doctors, one of them is in the video that's posting later, is pointing right at the whiskey shots and saying, "This is why." Nobody else will say it, but this is why. I'll take embarrassed over McCarthy, so keep fighting for us. Yeah. Every day that it keeps going is a day that we're not wasting money as a country. We're wasting it on that clown show, but we're not sending money all over the place. Eventually, I think Ukraine and other countries too will be calling like, "Y'all need to get it together. We need our money. We need our basic income checks. There, United States, please send it our way. We're waiting patiently." Yeah, it smells like tiger balm. Oh, the most expensive nursing home in the world. You're talking about Congress? John, do you think Trump is using his endorsement against McSharty? I'm not hating on Trump, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I think he's lost a lot of influence since he's been out of office. I think he's still a powerful figure in our government, and he controls a lot of votes, but I see a lot of people going over to the DeSantis camp, and I think he's kinda losing steam, you know? So, are y'all still using Tractor Supply? No, I haven't been in there since that came out. I think it was Doug and Stacy, right, that originally put that out. I had went there a few days prior though, but I didn't know, and picked up one, Christmas gift. Don't blame me, I didn't vote for this mess. Viva la revolution. Another thing I don't think that the swamp has considered yet is not only are these 20 bringing chaos, but there may be more on the way. The next election cycle and the next election cycle, we could be seeing, I would argue the Democratic Party is kinda split already because you have your typical Democrats like your Pelosi types and your Mitch McConnells, and then you have your Bernie Sanders types, more on with the communism and the AOC types. I think we're seeing a splinter in the Republican Party right now, um, between your McCarthys and your, just your Romneys, your swamp creatures, and then you're seeing the kind of the ultra conservatives coming in. I don't know, it's interesting. Yeah, got my mouse scrolling finger, that's correct. It's messed up. Is what it is. Triple T Tony says, "I vote secession." Uh, It'll be interesting because we may eventually reach that point. You know, we may see a convention of states, or we may see a coalition of states kind of backing off and saying, and pay close attention to when Biden visits the border, because if he goes down, he sees it in real time, and then he still continues to act like there's no problem and it's not a big issue. At that point, I mean, you're going to have governors and a lot of important people are gonna be upset by that, and they should be. And, at that point, they may just band together and say, "Well, look, we're outta here." I don't know. Yeah, he's a rhino. I mean, there's no doubt. Nobody's disputing that. I don't think McCarthy's, disputed that. Alright, chat. Miss Bella says, "I'm late. What happened with Tractor Supply?" I'm gonna leave that one for the chat. Hector, I think, civil war would follow any attempt to cede from the Union, you know, whether it's 5 states, 10 states, whatever. I think it was going to lead to civil war. I don't think it would be peaceful, you know? Yeah, and that's a fair statement. Porcupine Acres says Republicans are infighting like they did when they took both houses. When they had control of Congress, I remember that, they did nothing. They were just infighting the whole time, and we may see that again. Yeah, at least I still have my FJB finger. We may be in for a couple of years of them doing absolutely nothing and it being a clown show. I hope not, but I mean, I'm not very hopeful right now. Everyone was let in, no one at the border. Well, so some of the governors did try and fix the issue on on their own. So, for example, in Arizona, there were certain patches of the border where they had stacked shipping containers. This wasn't going to completely keep people out, but what it did, it would funnel illegals and force them to use certain entrance ways into the country. And because they're so understaffed, like Border Patrol, they were able to key in on those areas, and it was working. The locals there have said as much themselves. It was working. The Biden administration sued in court to have those shipping containers removed, and people are like, "What are you doing?" It was working. It's not. It's not the perfect solution, obviously, but the fact that you are stacking shipping containers in the first place, that's something you would see in a zombie movie. When you're worried about being overrun by zombies, here, stack these things up. That's how bad the issue is. And then the fact that it was working and the Biden administration sued to stop them from doing it, tells me all I need to know about the Biden administration's take on, illegal immigration. We don't buy I saw that. We don't buy Crocs, but they are the latest sponsor of drag shows. For anybody that don't know, the Crocs company is now sponsoring several of those. I saw that day before yesterday. Balkanization. Yeah, we talked about that a while back. It's probably coming. I don't see at this point where we vote our way out of it, where we pay our way out of it. I don't see the country correcting itself. Too many problems. Good morning. When is the US government gonna just declare bankruptcy? Bankruptcy was is when you have no money. We're way beyond that. We're 30 what is it? $32 trillion in debt at this point. Can you imagine going to bankruptcy court and saying, "Look, judge, son, I'm $32 trillion in the hole here. Help a brother out." Well, I mean, that's the main reason I think we're done as a country. There's no way that we pool our resources together and come up with $32 trillion. You know what I'm saying? And balkanization, we would split. We would splinter into several different countries, and then you fix the problems on a smaller scale. The federal government's incompetent. I mean, obviously, they're not able to do it. I think that just hasn't caught up with a lot of people in the federal government just yet. That's fair, Roy. There are no Republicans or Democrats, but there's a fundamental difference between liberals and conservatives. Now, if you're talking about the people on Capitol Hill, most of them are one and the same. I totally agree, but there is a difference between a liberal here in the United States and a conservative. They think they're two totally different ideologies. I had dirt track. I hadn't even considered that, contemplated that. I'm gonna send one of his doubles to the border. Oh God. Oh man. No matter what they do, the Senate will kill it or Biden will veto it. Yeah, but they have to do it in front of the American people. That's the thing. And term limits hitting the floor is really dangerous because again, I think most Americans want this. And if they see, a representative go up and vote no, stand up and vote no, the constituents are going to be like, well, wait a minute. We want term limits. You know what I mean? This puts a lot of pressure on politicians who are used to doing things kind of in the dark or in a back room somewhere. I don't. I mean, I am lukewarm on Rand Paul. That's it. I don't trust any of the rest of them. They're all snakes. They've all had chances to do the right thing, but have they? No, they have not. Term limits for all, guillotines for those called the cookies. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that the 20 that are resisting right now are basically without the guillotine saying the same thing. They're saying these people have been here forever and they've changed nothing. They've just made it worse. And that's why we don't want one of them up here as Speaker of the House. But the 20 could be snakes too. I don't, I'm not defending them. Um, I do like Rand Paul, but that's mainly because he has been trying to nail Dr. F himself to the wall for 2 years now. If they're Mighty Warrior says civil war may be the only way out of this. If there's balkanization or secession in any sort of way, there's going to be war. It's not going to be one of these deals where 3 or 4 coalitions of states just meet and say, "Hey, it's been nice," and they shaking hands like after the football game. No, they're going to want resources. They're going to want their government, whatever they are called at that time, to have, resources and money coming in and stuff like that, funding. They're gonna want land, especially, I mean, farmland. Let me just say that. Gotta be careful. Because they hate Trump so much, they won't vote for McCarthy over Trump's endorsement. Um, Maybe. I mean, there's no way that to know that for sure, brother. Maybe. Trump may be very smart. He may have endorsed McCarthy just to piss Democrats off so they won't vote for him. I don't know. There's no way of me knowing that. KWG podcast. Always always the upbeat messages here. Wow, 25% of y'all really think these blood-sucking ticks will change anything. Tells me that 25% of y'all are still the problem in this country. Well, they have hope in it comes down to, do you believe in the system that we have or not? Do you believe voting matters or not? Do you believe that you're represented or not? Some people do and some don't. And if you do, you continue to use the system, and if you don't, you want a new system, you know? I'm not placing my faith in any of the people, in Congress, but I do think if you're gonna bring real change, there has to be chaos first, and I think some of that we're seeing in real time. Uh, yeah, I saw somebody talking about that online. I don't know a whole lot about it. A man in Oregon got his ear and part of his face eaten by a zombie, but I don't know that this was a zombie. A lot of times people will get on different drugs and they just act erratically. And unfortunately, that's not the first time that's happened. Ain't going to be the last. Sometimes drugs affect people in very bad ways. If you want to look, if you want to prep for zombies, that's awesome. You'll be prepared for everything else. But no, I don't think the zombie apocalypse is coming anytime soon. I think he might have got a little bit of bad stuff from south of the border, probably. Raven P, yeah. Um, Country's been eating an unhealthy spiritual diet for a very long time, and now we're seeing the end results. Great way of putting it, Frank. The shipping containers were a deterrent, not a solution. I agree. It's just something they came up with because they weren't getting help from the president and the vice president who were supposed to be helping. It's them trying to do what they could with what they had. And I know in Texas, they were talking about using, at one point in time, vehicles and stuff like that. I think the USA needs to go protect somebody and make some money, or we need a war. Wars make money for certain people, certain industries, um, and they depopulate. I mean, let's face it, wars depopulate. So you're checking 2 boxes off. If you're in with those clicks, you know what I'm saying? You're checking 2 boxes. You're helping to depopulate, you're making money off the backs of war. The bigger the war, the more money to be made. Russell, well, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here, brother. How do we protect our wealth if you have cash in the bank? You don't. Um, it's protected right now. But as a matter of fact, I just tweeted out, it's a black and white photo last night of a bank run during the first Great Depression. Um, if we see a financial collapse or if we see another Great Depression, you may not get your money out of the bank. The banks may shutter and just say, we don't have it. And there's not a whole lot you can do at that point. What people do, some go to, I'm not a huge fan of crypto. Some go to precious metals. Many people are, if they can afford to, they're investing their money either by paying off debt that they have or by buying things that are going to things that make sense, like a complete solar setup, an underground well, something like this, something that's gonna pay for itself and just make sense and is worth something to you rather than numbers on a screen that actually works for you. Know what I'm saying? He's Coyote in Chief. Is that what we're calling him this year? I've been calling him Thief in Chief, but, JRC, I like that better, Coyote in Chief. He's responsible for sneaking more people into this country than any coyote walking right now. Coyote in Chief, y'all. History has been made. Research bank bail-ins. Captain Coral says, "I think a lot of this is, a distraction from Russia." Yeah. I mean, it's possible that it's a distraction. It's probably more likely that we just have a dysfunctional government. Again, from top to bottom. The whole government is complete dysfunction. You know, this could be a system that doesn't work anymore, being shown to us in real time. You know, the wheels falling off, if you will, of the government. And Trump would not have pumped billions into Ukraine. I'm doubting it. I'm doubting it. He probably would have spent it somewhere else, to be fair, but probably not there. He wasn't he wasn't great for, saving the country money. He spent a lot of money too, but I think in Trump's defense, he was trying to nationalize a lot of stuff. I remember specifically him going after pharmaceutical companies and signing bills saying, "Hey, you're gonna get it under this price or you're not gonna do business," this sort of stuff. He was trying to nationalize a lot of things, and then I remember Biden coming into office, killing those orders, and then doing the same thing a year later and saying, "Look what we did." You know, we're driving prescription medicines down and stuff like this. Oh, Pelosi, she just won't go away. Lying about J6. Um She's not the speaker anymore, but y'all still gonna see her. They'll probably hang a huge portrait just to trigger conservatives of her, behind the speaker when it's all said and done or something. We will close with that, Kelly. I don't disagree with this. Only way to fix it is force of arms. I think that you try to split peacefully. You try to have that peaceful divorce first. Um, but I don't think it's gonna be peaceful, to your point. I think sometimes in order to be free, um, you gotta water things. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Um, Sometimes you just gotta water things. Sometimes it's gotta be done, and it's not necessarily because you want to, it's because you don't want to live in bondage, you know what I mean? Um So I guess I need to mention this for the folks in the coffee club and the folks on Patreon. It looks like 13 Days in Benghazi was a landslide winner. I figured it'd be closer, but that's what I'm going to be watching this week, and we'll talk about it sometime early next week. Thank y'all for being here this morning. If you want to go live Monday morning, just leave a comment and let me know. Uh, until then, I'm gonna be plugged in. I'm gonna find out who the House Speaker is. I don't even know if it matters, but I'm intrigued. But until then, y'all take care and God bless.